All right, hey, how's it going? It's Freddie, and I just thought I would kind of show what show what I've been up to. Um, all right, so right now I am working on a project called ndexr, and it's kind of like how how much of like how much can I do on my own? um, it's like I really like I really enjoy studying Reddit data and just I'm a big Reddit fan, and they have a really cool API that allows you to just grab whatever, right? And so, part of that is like an engineering process, right? Where you need something that will continue to run, continue to pull data, kind of catch itself if it fails and then retry. Um, you kind of want something that just kind of always restarts, right? If you're um, dealing with any sort of external data source, I suppose. What I have is a script that basically runs in a loop, but it's connected to Redis and allows a user to inject information into that script. And there's kind of I don't know, like a React way of setting a default value if that connection isn't set initially. Uh, and so it allows me to do is to change change what's happening with like the aggregation of that data, right? Because if you look here, my my computer's about to explode um, because it has just been churning away and grabbing stuff from Reddit, but then also handling a database and then handling APIs to work between the UI here and the back end side, right? So like the every single panel in this application is a get or a post or whatever to a Plumber API, right? So no data logic exists within the app itself. Um, and then Plumber is what allows the API to or lets Shiny, interact with Postgres to go get and fetch data every so often. And there's also like scripts updating the materialized views, right? So that whenever you um, share this, it's not like doing the crunching on the fly. It just kind of does it for everyone. Um, but then everything that comes into the the application is ran through Nginx, which then gives you user information and about like traffic coming into the site, right? And so in incoming HTTP, it's like you have this call within Shiny, right? So like as your Shiny app is loading up, information about that session is fed into the Shiny UI. And that's actually a really interesting place because there's a whole lot of work that happens right there with what I'm doing. Um, so maybe it just makes sense for me to I'm okay. I'm gonna just start from the beginning. Okay, so let me just show you how this works. So PyCharm, this will be fun. Let's just start all the way from the beginning. And you'll notice that I've got this running on localhost 5000, and ndexr.com, my site is not currently up. So what I do is I go to my make file, and whenever I want to start up AWS, and I just hit my A up make command. All right, so now it's going to start up. So this is running an AWS command line command, right, to say go turn on the server in Ohio. And we can check it again here. Or I can try an SSH into the server. Yeah, so it says it's running. Okay, so still not quite there yet, but nginx is running on that remote server, and I think it would be, I expect that I would see the actual nginx. Let me just, yeah, it's not quite there yet. Now, oh, yep, there we go. Okay, so nginx on that AWS server creates a connection with you, a secure connection, but then ports you to a gateway to a server running inside my house. So you can see here that this is running, right? It's running here, but it's not running on ndexr.com. Oh, no, sorry, that connection still exists. So, well, you'll just have to believe me that this is running. Actually, I can prove it because I'll get out of this, exit, terminal, ls, yeah. So we've got ndexr.com right there. And then I can just say make d down, and I'll turn off the site, right? Actually, see, God, it's 96 Celsius. My computer's going to explode. I need power. But if you notice, yeah, so it's down, right? So shutting it down on my computer, shut it down on the internet. But what I'm doing there is I'm using auto SSH to say, nginx on that external server sends you to a port on ndexr.com, ndexr 5000, and then that's connected to a port on my local computer, where, like, basically, if you hit there, then it sends you over to this port on the remote, and then it sends you to mine. And that's done through auto SSH, where you on your local computer do this auto SSH to that port, and then it's like, opening up the floodgates, I suppose. So I'm going to try not to explode my computer any more than it has, and I'm going to turn off my AWS server. So now it's stopping. So that keeps me from having to, like, go into AWS and back out of AWS or whatever. But that connection is made, right? And then that information is sent to Shiny, right? So you're opening up a port on my computer to Shiny, and at the beginning of that Shiny app, I can probably run it. Yeah, just that's 92. Ugh. I need to put this thing outside. Well, make. So I'm just gonna do it. Make. Oh. So now I'm gonna go to R. But if you notice here, whenever I start the app, like, this UI function takes information if you just add a function argument to it. incoming as dot list maybe. Yeah, so lots of good stuff, and I dumped that in Mongo because I don't really know what's like coming into that yet, and I don't know the structure or if it's consistent. So Mongo is a good place for unstructured data that you will regret not having a schema for later. Um, but then I can just go ahead and start the app, right? And yeah, so you log in. It sends you through here, and then right over here, you'll notice that there's this big drop. What I'm able to do is to actually, you can see, yeah, right, incoming HTTP request. Here, this pull sleep parameter, instead of like, if I want it to like every, to hit Reddit like every second or something, right, and grab data, I can, but I noticed that my computer was getting hot, and so I'm trying to see how to slow it down. But this pull sleep, like if I put this at like 120, then every like 120 seconds, it will go and grab data instead of like every second or every like half a second or something, right? So it just like keeps my computer from doing as much. But I don't even think that that's where the heat's coming from. God, okay, yeah, I'm gonna turn it off. But yeah, make deep down. That's what I'm up to. So what I didn't show is like how user state is managed, or you know, how whenever you like search, that is connected to like an email client to send information back or whatever, right? So like there's so many aspects of this that it's kind of like if I was able to put my perfect company together, like on the back end with R, like what would I do? And how would I make it like um, super clean and efficient, and like what would like the perfect code look like, right? And if you were able to write that kind of code, then what could you abstract on that, right? And I feel like it kind of shows what you're able to do with that whenever you have that kind of philosophy, because I've gone back and I've been really nitpicky about like where I put things and how they look, right? So for example, the router is what allows you to just kind of move from page to page. But then, you know, like for example, the UI itself right here, right? This is the main UI. Once you've logged in, you have to have your, you have to require user credentials or whatever. These are all modules, right? So this is a statistics module, and then this is the data search module. And then if the user is authenticated as an admin, then they get to see that back end panel. And so there's that user management that's built in. But then I think it also makes sense to actually look at part of the UI, which is, oh, what's a good UI? Let's look at statistics. The UI itself has a call to Redis. So I actually have a cleaned up version of this process. So I can actually update this snippet here to like a new version of my state management. But anyways, it creates a connection to Redis, and Redis is like a key value store. So for each user, you can have you know, a key for a particular part of the UI, and then each time that user hits that UI, you go get the last value that was stored, which I haven't shown quite yet, and then inject that into the UI itself. So like if you look here, okay, Redis, go get username, and then if state email, which is an email parameter, um, that may or may not exist, basically the set default function that I wrote will say, okay, well, if email isn't there, then it has this default value of nothing, right? And then email becomes that. But that's on the initial value. And I use this function like on the back end and the front end, right? Where like say the user says, or the back end starts up before the front end, and but the user hasn't set a default value for the back end yet. If that's the case, then the back end will just start with the default value until the user updates it. And so I thought that that was kind of like a neat way of connecting those things. But anyway, so you set default, and then that value is put within your UI. But then I don't think that I don't actually have that in here. And I think it was because I decided that this would not have any default value. So actually what's happening here is I'm not using the state email, but what I can do is I can actually just write that in here. So now whenever anyone goes to my site, what's going to happen here is we need to use this data. Let's do data monitor, and then let's copy some code over. Yep. Boom. All right, so what happens on this side, and yeah, we'll have it as an observe event too. All right, so that is incorrect. This is correct. And yes, okay. So, and DB search, right. Boom. Well, search output. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. So, whenever, no, email. That's what we want. Yep. Okay. So, whenever email changes in the UI with their tippy tappies, the state of the UI is stored and time stamped technically at the keystroke. It can be if you do an observe. Actually, no, that's what we want here because that's just too much. Search terms. We're gonna do this. Text input. Oh, yeah, no, it is DB search. I apologize. I had it backwards. Okay, so whenever they say send me the data, right? That email will now get stored in Redis, and whenever the UI starts back up again, it pulls that value from Redis and then uses it. So there's like this perfect harmony between Redis and Shiny where you always have like the user state being stored, and it's always just kind of like coming back up on your page perfectly. But then you also get a lot of insight as to like what your customers or whomever are doing, right? Because there's just there's a lot of insight you can get from that information. So it's creepy to the point where you can literally just like know to the millisecond when somebody has pushed a button, right? And I actually dial back because I don't want that. I just want like to be able to store the email, right? But Redis is so fast, and it's a really nice setup for storing that state. Whenever you actually hit the search button, what happens is a script running in Docker is checking messages in RabbitMQ. So I went with RabbitMQ for the email because I don't want the user to have to wait for um, I don't want the user to have to wait for like any processing to get done. But if there's a lot of users trying to do that at the same time, it could really like explode my computer. So RabbitMQ allows you to pass a file, or maybe not a file, but like a text to another system, and it allows like for decoupling of systems. And so what it does is basically if it takes 10 seconds to run a search, like a really like it doesn't, but it takes like a second or two. But like if it takes a second or two to actually go get that, then what happens if you have like 100 people who do that at the same time, right? It might be too much for my computer to handle. Um, and so instead, it'll just do them one by one, right? It'll say, okay, here's somebody needs something. Okay, I got it. Somebody needs something. Okay, I got it. Somebody needs something. Somebody, okay, I got it. Okay, and you can allow a queue to build up that will get taken care of eventually, right? And that's what RabbitMQ is cool for. All of the data is stored in Postgres because it's like super tabular. Um, and then like the user stuff is stored in Postgres as well. And actually, I'd like more security around the user stuff. But like the whole system, like the stuff that's pulling Reddit data is basically is Rust, and then all of the shiny stuff and the kind of like the handling of state stuff, that's all R. But it's nice because like you're storing all of your incoming traffic to your site. You can spin it up and down real quick, right? Because you've just got your AWS set up. Um, yeah, you're getting all those HTTP requests. Those are being stored. Um, you have user management with R, so you can create multiple users. I've built in like payment into this, so you could um, set up payment for individual users and set up well, yeah, I mean payment, but like what I'd like to do is like for people to be able to select like you know give me the search for Colorado Rockies every single day, right? But then to have them come in and turn that off for an individual user, right? Because maybe like you're following stocks or something, and you want to know if somebody on Wall Street Bets says something about your stock or your crypto or whatever, right? Then you can come in here, you could log in, and you could say, hey, tell me everything about like Nvidia um, that you've seen over the past 6 hours, right? And send that to me every 6 hours. Um, I could set this up so that like you can create an API call to it and set up that those like custom configurations. But anyways, I hope that this is interesting and I'm not rambling too much. So um, anyways, if anyone's interested in talking about it or seeing more of it, then let me know. All right, bye.